Last night, whoo! We had the Lions Den over at Word of Life, and Calvin and Brian, or Calvin Woods, was there, and it went, and even after they left, it went another 40 minutes. So I don't remember. I think it was like 11:30 at night or something like wild like that. So they're going to be here this Saturday, and prepare to have some hang time. Who knows where the Spirit's going to go on different things, but tonight is a clinical class, so can I get our little frontal lobes more back in place? And I'd like to go the other way, but we are talking about anger resolution, and we have been talking in the aspect of the first night talking about, how are you tempered? And it's very important that we understand their temperament and where it came from. We can't blame everything on someone else. But children are clean slates, so they learn by their surroundings, and they take in things. And how they see things, they might be looking up to a situation that looks totally different than what we see it like, because we're adults, and they could be misunderstanding it and be traumatized. I mean, there's things like that that lock into our brain and cause us to see things how they are or not how they are, but it feels like truth to us. And we are our information. Whatever information we have right now is the information that we will live life on till you change that information. And I love the word repentance. I used to hate it, but the word repentance actually means get new information. Regret the old way you did something. Now let's make a change. So it's a process. It isn't like I prayed a prayer and so I repented. No, it's a process of I'm constantly getting new information, which makes me aware of where I'm off. And because I'm off in these different areas, my plan is to make a change. I can't change based on my information until I get new information. The only change that comes place, is through that new information. And of course, if we're dealing with God and His love, that's the best kind of information because it's the absolute truth. It takes absolute truth to dispel any lie. These are all things we've talked about. You can't take a lie and sort of tell it the truth and have it move and change into something different. It has to have absolute truth. And there's only one place you can find that, and that's by the love of God, right? Love is the top thing. It's the banner. So religion is not, but the love of God is. There's a big difference. And then we talked about the bucket and how we have that place that we store everything, in the brain that we did not get a chance to bring closure to, or we did not get a spot where we could grab a hold of it and say, I got time right now to deal with this trauma. Most of it is either too big for us. We didn't have the information to process it. As a kid, how do you have the information to process something most adults can't? Right? As adults, we're getting information. How do you process what happened to you? So if you're 5 and something traumatic happens to you, you don't have the information for that. In fact, it takes up way too much space, time, and energy in your brain. That's how the brain registers, that just got big, and I can't do it. So it's an automatic thing that you're going to disassociate or you're going to go into denial. And denial, you literally have to lie to yourself. Contrary to popular belief, for a long time in the 80s and the 90s, they said denial is a healthy mechanism that will help you survive. Except the problem is you have to lie to yourself to deny something. So, somebody punches you in the eye and you go to denial, you can be like, well, it wasn't that bad. It didn't hurt that much. I could see why they would, and you have to lie to yourself about the situation rather than saying that was wrong. Because if that was wrong, then I'd have to actually process what happened. And I don't want to have to take the time to do that, so it'd be better to go into denial. Disassociation is if I disassociated from you, I just wouldn't associate over here. All my conversation, all my time and energy would be way over here. You're out. How people survive sexual abuse as a child or different things like that, many times is disassociative to the point some people will literally have out-of-body experiences. In fact, I've said this before on Wednesday nights, that out-of-body experiences is really where you've disassociated to the point your spirit is trying to disconnect from what's going on with you physically and emotionally. And people will feel themselves starting to leave their body. Or they'll have experiences where they're asleep, but they're awake and they can't move, and all of a sudden they realize they're up out of their body and they're standing looking at their body. I can verify that because that happened to me. It's the craziest feeling. When I first started to deal with all the stuff that had happened to me, I had that experience. Then I did many years of therapeutic foster care, high therapeutic foster care. And so the kids coming in either watched their parents be murdered or there was something really really horrific. And some of those kids would say, Mary, or they call me mom or whatever, I'm coming out of my body and I can't stop. So they'd have this sensation about being lifted out. And it felt like they were hallucinating, but there is a real thing that the body and the brain just says, whoa, that's way too much information. I can't house that. That's like way too much. And you'll feel this separation. It'll almost feel like it's driving you out. Make sense? So these are parts of things that might be a little bit more extreme than maybe what you're going through, or might be right on the money. Or you might be going through something more intense than that even. But we have to explore that to be able to talk about anger resolution, because anger resolution is to resolve. We resolve the things as they're happening. We unpack them. We put them away. We throw them in the garbage. We file them. There's all kinds of different things people, your heart will do and your brain, your soul will do in order to deal with the memories of different things. They have to be unpacked and put different places. Otherwise, you'll end up with a hoarding in your brain that now you're just so overstimulated you can't think straight. Huh? Yeah, you know what that's like? It's like somebody does this in your face. You're like, yep, that's how my brain feels. It's way too many packages trying to open at the same time. And it gets really wild. So we know so far to be able to come to this point and talk about this is really important, because to just tell somebody to control their temper is not resolving it. Control yourself. Okay, now I did, but I'm still really ticked off. I'm not punching you, but I'm still really mad. You didn't give them a way to close it out where you actually take the base out of it, the button out of it, so that when somebody presses it, it won't trigger, or it's like you're taking the ammo out of the gun. Go ahead, click, click, nothing's happening, because I've actually brought closure to it. And when we don't have closure and you have that kind of feeling going on in the face of 25 different things that have to be resolved right now, it's going to get out of control. It isn't just about, bad temper kind of thing. Now, I've presented this here before, but it's very much a part of anger resolution. And every time it gets presented, if you've seen it before, you will get something new out of it. And this is arrested in development. They used to think that you recorded memories, like you're recording me right now. Hopefully you're recording me kind of even, that I'm not up in your face and you're not all jumpy, and that's how you're recording it. It's just an even thing, that you're adding a memory. And these just are, the math that goes with this is crazy, and I'm not the mathematician, how fast we can zoom through all of our past memories and come to the memory and develop a memory right now. It's like if you put a number, and then with all zeros on the board, you still wouldn't be at that point of how fast this thing goes. But in any case, they used to think that you just added a memory on the end part here. Like I'm talking, now, all right, there's another memory. But they know now that, they know more every day, that everything comes through your third trimester worth of memories and then first comes out as a result. So that's cool and everything. It's a way of packaging it, where third trimester would be that those last few months right before you're born. Your brain is definitely recording. The only reason they know that is that's all the farther their instruments can go. But when you're live when you're conceived, right? And you think about in 4 weeks, the heart's beating, all this kind of stuff, you're recording. They just can't detect it with their instruments. But they definitely can do that in the third trimester of pregnancy. And that child is taken in whether or not it feels traumatized, whether it feels safe, all kinds of different things like that. And it can hear yelling in the house. I mean, really, we think once the baby gets here, well, the baby has been here for however many months you're pregnant already. Been here the whole time listening. Knowing if you're anxious, knowing if you're being abused, knowing if you're having a good day, knowing if you stand on the porch in a t-shirt and the sun hits your belly, that baby will start moving. Because the light actually lights up through your skin. And they're like, somebody turn some warmth on. Somebody turn, this is great. So we're recording like that. That means many times in that, science has proven that if those memories here are really good, many times you have a really peaceful baby. They're just born really peaceful. If it's really intense and mom's on the run and she can't figure out where to go and someone's abusing her or whatever's going on, or we don't want this kid and why are we having this baby, all that's going on, many times they're born with all kinds of digestive problems. Because it's something that triggers the body, because your stomach has its own brain, your heart has its own brain, and these two brains talk to this brain and this brain talks to these brains. So if you're stressed, this is the number one area where it'll show up that, I'm not digesting right. I have, I vomit in my mouth. A lot of people have that where they're like, oh, well, that's acid reflux. Well, why is that going on? What's causing the digestion to be so rough? We build 86% of all of our serotonin for our brain is built in our stomach lining. So it isn't like it's our brain that's producing it. It's here that's producing it. And this brain then transfers the information like, yep, go ahead. Serotonin is that protector of the neurons in your brain. So it's actually like a coating on the outside of your wiring. You don't have enough serotonin, you have a live wire brain. You don't touch live wires, you'll get a shock. That means your brain is hot. And when it's hot, it's not cognitively going to be thinking the same as someone's brain who is just at a normal state. When it's hot, it will trump your cognitive thinking. You put stuff in the fridge when you're upset that doesn't go in there. You ever have that when you're having a bad week? You're like, why did I put that in there? I don't even know. Can't find your keys, they're right in front of you, all that stuff. And the more ramped up and the more hot your brain gets, the less your frontal lobe is able to cognitively just kind of walk through the math problem of the day and solve it. It's too hot. So here we are. If you had a brain that looked like this, and nobody has this brain, because we've all been touched by sin, and we've all participated in sin. So that means we've got all kinds of markers that are bad memories stuck in between the good memories. And it'd be great if we had a brain like that. I think when we get our new body and we're up in heaven, we ain't going to have a brain that has glitches in it. But here, we've been touched by sin. And what happens is, even in the third trimester of memories, there can be these spots that are absolute glitches of things that never got closure. They just never got closure. There's also things that happen in the brain that are areas we never got the memo. We never got the information. We are missing something in here. So now something's happening now, and our brain looks a little bit more like this, or even messier. I would have to say if I drew my brain when I was younger, it'd be a whole mess. And I'd be really searching for it. Now, where's the good memories? Because we can have thousands and thousands of good memories, but your subconscious will pull up the things that aren't resolved first because they're the priority. And it knows, your spirit knows, who you are knows, like we're trying to get back to peace. Because the subconscious is very much about running the body organs and, keeps you breathing through the soul when you're sleeping at night and things like that. So it's got a whole system. There's a whole factory up in your head that's got to keep running. And so when it has to deal with some of these things, it's like, we got to bring this to priority. We have to get this solved. I don't have the information. Somebody needs to get me the information. Go get that information. And if it doesn't have that, it keeps rotating this problem so that when you're asleep at night and you think you're resting, you're not really resting. You can sleep for 12 hours and wake up tired because it's constantly saying, what? There's like a big old question mark. Why did that happen? What? There's all kinds of questions that come about this because the subconscious is actually trying to solve it. And it's his job because it's trying to get back to a place where it's like, I'm trying to run the organs and the brain's too hot. I'm trying to get your body to relax, brain's too hot. So it's going to say, I have to defend here. I have to defend what's going on. That's the job of the subconscious. So we store everything through the amygdala and other areas in the brain that doesn't pay to mention, really. You just know it gets stored up there. We don't want to get all technical. And in any case, so now I'm saying something in the now. It's going to go through your third trimester worth of memories really fast, right? And it's going to grab a hold. If something I'm saying is positive, it might just move on through, and the result will be a new memory. Sometimes a positive thing will trigger a negative thing. Do you ever have somebody compliment you or something like that, and you're like, why did they say that? Like, I still don't know why they would have said that to me. And all of a sudden, everywhere you don't trust anybody is now all alarmed because someone complimented you. Do they want money from me? I mean, what is the, and it's called a negative load. When you have a negative load, you have glitches that are in that are really things that are saying, we never got that resolved. Sorry, we didn't have that resolved. And these are the areas that we have things that we're like, what? Just a big question mark. Like, for instance, it would be like we're supposed to learn empathy before the age of 7, definitely before the age of 3. We learn a lot of what empathy is, and empathy is different than sympathy. Sympathy, where I'm going to, I feel sorry for you, but I can move on with my day. I feel sorry. Sorry that happened to you. Empathy is like, I can't stop thinking about Rachel because I feel what she feels. I cried all morning thinking about what Rachel's going through. See? Empathy is where you're like right in the harness with them. It's like, we learn that, at a very young age. But if you never got that memo because no one was showing you empathy, they didn't role model it to you, it wasn't something required of you, nobody gave you the information how to do it, it doesn't come natural to you, you got an open area in the brain that any time information goes through, it touches, it's looking, it's like, I got to pull from the empathy files. We don't got nothing. I never got that memo, right? Some of the gangsters and I'm going to just call it that, some of the gangsters I worked with in Colorado, one of their things for fun, just, you're a young guy, and just tonight you say, hey guys, let's get our what do they call those? You blow into them, they're air guns, but they call them blow dart, yes. And so they would go down the street and just blow dart people for fun. There's no empathy. Didn't matter if it was a grandma. Didn't matter if it was a little kid or whatever. Hit him in the leg and then went, that's so funny. They just fell down. They got this dart stuck in there. Right? And so working with them, it's kind of like just talking to them. You're talking to something where there's actually no information there. Like, why is that a problem? We're just having fun. So an archaic way of teaching them would be to take the dart and shove it into their leg and be like, now let's talk about this, okay? Did you feel anything when I did? That would be an archaic way of dealing with it, But sometimes life does those kinds of things where suddenly now the shoe's on the other foot and you're like, well, wait a minute here. I did not know that, And literally you'll say, how could a person not know that? Because they never got the memo. Some people never got the memo on any form of empathy. Or they actually were role modeled to do completely the opposite, and then that's what was right. Like the story I shared about me punching the little boy on the first day of school. And I get sent home. I get the whooping of my life, and then my dad says, I'm so proud of you. So I get double message. Now I don't even know which one's the real. So should I feel bad for that little boy? What are we doing? Well, you don't know because it goes according to what information and how your surroundings had acted. So now, I'm telling you something in the now, and let's say I say something to you that just smells remotely like rejection. It's going to grab a hold of any of the files that are unresolved that have rejection in them, and then it's going to come out as a result. And how you're going to see this. So I just want to do a little exercise with you. Ready? We're not getting up and doing exercise. I've done that in classes before, but this is not that class. So an exercise would be to tell yourself something that is truth, which sometimes we grab for something that's truth about ourselves, and the only where we can get truth is the Bible. It's like, all I feel about myself is something negative. And you go to the Bible, and it says he rejoices over us with singing. That we're part of the desire of his heart. And you can just start talking about all those things that are true. You say those things are truth within megaseconds. Like I said, all the circles on the board and more. It'll go through your brain in megaseconds. It'll grab those different files, and then it will challenge whatever was just told to you. So in the Pine County Jail, I was teaching a group of women, and I said, I just want you to know something here today. You are all beautiful. Because I'm not saying this like world standard, gaunt, little runway, whatever, made up with all kinds of fakeness or what. I'm just saying everybody's beautiful. God's created us, and we're all beautiful. And as I'm saying this, then I just quickly said, what went through your mind? And the first person was like, shut up. That was her load, her negative load. It grabbed everything, and it was literally what that was saying is, get away from me. I don't want to hear that positive information, which said how negative her load was. The next person said, you want something from me. See, I didn't give him time to really think about it. I just went, boom. And her subconscious said, here's what the file said. You want something from me. No, I'm just telling you that I think you're beautiful. Well, what's in their storyline is usually somebody's used them because of their looks or sexually or whatever, right? I went through so many people in the class, and they had just negative load, negative load. I get to this one lady, and she says, thank you. Thanks. Well, the negative load person would be like, prideful thing. She must think she's all that. No, she just received a compliment. She just said thank you. So it's very difficult. I'll counsel a lot of people who are either dating or married or whatever, and the guys get really frustrated because she's like, you never tell me anything about myself anymore. So the guy will be like, honey, I just love you. I think you look cute. Oh, cute. That's so stupid. Why would you say that? Why do you want him to ever compliment you again? He's trying to tell you something. It's not him in that moment. It's your negative load that's saying, get that away from me. Because if it's actually true when you really feel that about me, I have to trust you even more. I have to bond to you even more. My negative load says, I don't know if I can do that. See? So it'll get really frustrating because just in science, they've proven that when a person's really trying to receive what you says, it takes 20 positives to overcome a negative. And that's when they're straining to grab a hold of that positive. What happens if they're like, I don't know, we'll see. You're going to be constantly, no, I told you I love you. I told you. And after a while, it'll exasperate the person who's trying to give you an affirmation. And an affirmation is something that affirms you. It firms up what that person thinks about you. And a negative load will do this. I don't know what to do with your compliment, but I can really listen to everything you're saying and try to pull out of what you're saying something negative, even when you're not saying something negative. That's when we say things like, a person will say something to us and we'll be like, what is that supposed to mean? What? I'm just saying that, no, I know what you're meaning. You do? Now you're reading my brain? And we'll respond, don't get snotty with me. That's how chicks go, right? It's like, I'm just saying, you always and you never and every single time follows a negative load. You always and you never and every single time is not accurate for either party to be talking that way. Those are sentences that are exacto statements that are not of God. Right? But the emotional state says, but I feel like that's what's accurate. Every single time you compliment me, you want something from me. Is that accurate, really? No, that's how I feel, though. And maybe if we took it back farther, in your negative load, it isn't about what's happening right now. It's about how somebody used you back here when they gave you something. See, I had experience with a family member where they bought me a couple pair of jeans. Didn't buy me anything for a long time before or after. But when I wouldn't do something that they wanted, And after all, I bought you those 2 pairs of jeans. Oh, well, I will shift my entire life now because I have these jeans. You know what goes through you? You may have them back. See? Because nobody wants to have something given to them and have it used against them. That's a manipulative thing. That's a thing where we're actually being trained by them, because we train people how to treat us. And if we yield to that, and we yield to the thing where they're saying, and I did this for you. And we're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'll do it. Then when they get you something again, they're going to expect more. A gift is a gift. No strings attached. Or it's not really a gift. I think someone's car is going off. It might. Hopefully it's not mine. Lordy, lordy. Or it's going to be a long time until it shuts up. So here we have saying something positive will always drag up your instant response. So I tell the people that, you're beautiful. Boom. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Well, try that with yourself. Look yourself in the eye. You're looking in the mirror, and you say something like this: God has brought the blessing to me. Therefore, I am blessed and highly favored. And if shut up comes to your mind, or that's so flippin' weird, or any of those kinds of things, that's not a God issue. That's a negative load in your brain issue. So we get very angry at things that repeat themselves. And there's a couple different studies out there that say if you were abused, usually it's cyclical, like as you're being raised, or you're in a relationship. If abuse is going to take place, it might be really heavy every 3 months, or every 3 weeks, or whatever it is, and you don't keep track of the time, so you don't really know that if somebody mapped your life, they'd see the cycle. It's really important that we kind of pick out that cycle and take it apart and break it. Well, as that cycle's going on, if you're at the beginning stage, which sometimes they call it the honeymoon period, like if there's a person who abuses his wife, or vice versa, because that does happen, contrary to popular belief, it's not always one way. So it happens. And then there's this like, I hate you and I don't want you, we're going to get divorced, we were never meant for each other. I could go on and on with all the things that are really hurtful that are said. And then get away from me, don't touch me. And then someone shoves somebody. There's all this stuff that ends up abusing each other. Then in the end, it turns around differently. And it's like, I'm sorry, baby, I should have never said that to you. And then you end up having sex. And sex somehow has cured it all. Just have sex, it'll just click. All your anger is just now gone. Now, because you feel something, right? And you change the subject. And you changed the subject, and you never really did deal with what was making you angry, what the real feelings were. We don't know why we said all those mean things. We don't know the root of what we were really thinking. But it's okay, because we had sex, and now we're in love again. Love is a choice. We don't fall in and out of love. You either choose to love somebody or you choose not to. The emotion of sexuality is a feeling. There should be some feeling, right? It hits the high emotion. It's the epinephrine going off in our body. It's hormones flowing. It's all that kind of stuff. But it's not the trueness of love. Anybody can have sex. But not anyone can love another human being no matter what. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here we have all this emotion going on, and we're supposed to control our anger. Yet we've got a negative load, and anyone can trigger that negative load or load that doesn't have the information of how to deal with something. We're going to get frustrated. So if there's just a cycle going that every so many weeks, every so many months, there's a certain thing that starts to build up. And if you track it as a counselor, I'll track it in a person's life and be like, well, usually we, come down off of a fight, we have sex, and then we go buy something. kind of seal the deal of it. Honey, I love you so much. Let's go. We should probably get this now, right? And then you have that thing. You have this euphoria. You're walking around like, I just love, and you send her roses, and she sends you whatever, and you're back and forth. But then all of a sudden, the thing that was bothering you starts triggering again because behaviors haven't changed. And whatever that person's doing that's triggering you is now hitting that negative load. And you're like, no, we're not going to go back to that. Well, we're not going to argue like we did last time. It's stupid, right? And then they trigger it to the point you can't control it. And you will have the same behavior you did before, and they will have the same reaction they had before. And then in that moment, while you're yelling at each other, talking trash to each other, there's this part of your soul that goes, see, that just proves you don't belong together. And then we'll say those things. We're like, we're probably not compatible. See, we're just too opposite. I mean, stuff will come out that is really just a description of what the deduction, the math problem in the brain that your subconscious has solved is it looks at all the negative and goes, see, that's the facts. That's the facts. You're not going to be able to stay together. I mean, this is horrible. You're crazy. She's crazy. Everybody's crazy. Isn't it interesting how we weren't crazy while we're walking through Walmart and buying each other gifts and, strolling along the beach and everything? And suddenly, the same sane people are now crazy. You need counseling. You're crazy. Well, where'd that come from? It came out of this load of like, I need to push you away because I don't know how to solve me about you. But we're directing it at the person, like, go solve yourself so that I can be sane. Because you're so crazy. And a lot of times it is like they're having a reaction, they're wigging out, they're arrested in development, whatever it is going on. I need to settle me so I know how to deal with that. Otherwise, the next phrase that we'll say is that's not godly will be like, now you're driving me crazy. First you were crazy, and now your crazy's driving me crazy. Doesn't solve anything, does it? And that becomes a cyclical pattern that after a while, when we cherish that good part, where we're in the honeymoon period of time, we're like, no one can do any wrong. I love you so much, babe. All that kind of stuff. We're in that stage, it's like, oh yeah, because you just had sex or you had whatever and you bought something or you did something that just sent a euphoria there and it's just like so special and we never resolve the glitches that are inside, right? So in that stage of it, you can beat each other up, end in jail and in the ending stage of it, and then be in that euphoria and just feel like, see, he's so much better now. She's so much better now. No, well, when was the abuse that took place between the two of you? 4 days ago, but everything's changed. I prayed and God, he just answered. It's beautiful. Well, nothing changes without new information. Where in the last 4 days did that person get new information? If they didn't go somewhere and get some new information and have time to apply it, you were just looking so bad for it to always be like the euphoria. Like you're in that spot of that grandiose. So like, I always want to be where we're having sex or we're doing something that makes me high. We bought a boat together. We went to a mountaintop together. See, that's love. Now, love is trying to figure out a way to love yourself enough so that there's some form of control inside yourself regarding any glitches and getting over them and going and getting new information to fill these spots that never got filled. Now I first have something to give to you. If I'm empty of those things and they're unresolved in me, and I say I love you, what I really mean is I'm trying to love you to the degree of knowledge that I have. This is all I got. But it might fall really short of making that person feel secure or affirmed or something like that. And it's like, well, that's tough. They're just going to have to learn to live with me. No, loving ourselves first is healing here first. It's self-care that says, I can't take you where I haven't gone and I can't give you what I don't have. But now that I walk through some healing, I got something to give. And so you come into a relationship with a soup bowl half empty, and this person's half empty, and then you try to feed each other with that, maybe they don't see what's in your bowl to begin with because you're so cute, so fine, so hot. Like, don't look at my soup bowl. Now I'm not going to come into this relationship with something to offer. And then the person goes, that's all I have to eat? Yep, that's all you're getting. And if you'd love me, you'd put up with it. No, you need to go love yourself enough to fill that bowl. And I'll love myself enough so we each have something to give to each other. Make sense? That one thing, if that one thing is off, there's going to be some anger up in the house. It's very frustrating when you're in a relationship, or it can be with your parents, it can be with whoever, but especially in a romantic relationship, husband, wife, so, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and you have more of a full soup bowl, and they're attracted to that. But they ain't going to show you what's in their soup bowl, and you're like, I'm just going to hang on to what I got. I got good boundaries. I'm not giving it all away to begin with here. And you start to find out the more they eat from that bowl, the emptier you are, because they're not bringing something back into the relationship. They just found out you got good soup. Like, there's some good soup over there. And they will use you for that, whether it be your finances, your emotional state, your support, your knowledge, whatever it is. It's like, there's good eating at your house. Well, what are you contributing? Well, I'm not. It's very frustrating because you felt like maybe the other person was going to contribute something, and it's not in their soup bowl. They're not evil. They just never cook something up long enough to put it there. So we see that. So now we're in the state that we, tell yourself something. Like, sometimes at Word of Life we do this, and I should do it more here at TBO, where, I'll say, repeat after me. God is good, and he wants the blessing in your life, and he wants the blessing in my life. You know why we're doing that? We're challenging the negative load that's in you. And when we're in church, you go, yeah, because everybody believes it around me, so I'm going to say it too. And then you get out there and you're like, you know what? I'm blessed. See, so when you have a negative thought, we planted a positive thought that's going to challenge that negative thought, and it actually causes a war in your brain. So should we never say anything positive? Right? No, we should say the affirmations more. Affirmations means let's firm you up in this area. You're like Jell-O here. One day you like yourself, the next day you hate yourself. There's got to be something that's your anchor that says, this is where I'm planted. Because you can't have a decent boundary for yourself if you're not planted. There are some people that they can be walking down the street, somebody come up, take their wallet, slap them in the face and run off, and they feel like they deserve that. Like, well, that kind of stuff always happens to me. It's like, that's it? That's all you got? You got nothing come up inside yourself like, no, we ain't doing this. Right? There's nothing that comes up. That's a lack of love for you. So this whole silly teaching that's out there that you're a hater if you have boundaries, if you say, no, I'm not participating, nor do I want my children participating. Hater. What? Maybe I love myself enough to have some standards. Maybe I love my children enough to want to instill that in them, and you don't get to tell them these other things. Hater. If it's built on truth and you've spent time and you love yourself and you know you're centered on this, you're not moving my anchor. You can go have your little fit, do whatever you want to do, but I'm not moving my anchor. No apologies. So there's something about that then that will cause you to have a boundary for yourself. Now, when I teach on boundary classes, and it's really important to know this, some of you have heard me say this before, but just as a reminder, you don't draw a boundary on someone else unless you're looking for a fight. Right? If I come up to Mary and I'm like, you know what, next time, Mary, if you ever say that to me again, so help me. See, now I'm drawing this big, grandiose, I'm going to do what, right? And then there's a threat. You don't even want to see that side of me. Ooh, what is that supposed to mean? We don't know. And this is supposed to be like this real boundary, right? And she's supposed to get afraid. But what if she's sure about herself and she's not afraid? And she looks at me and goes, nope, that's not going to work for me. And you're like, what? Then it raises it up where that person gets really, really angry. But if she doesn't have boundaries for herself, I'm looking for a fight. You ever say that to me again? And she goes, what? What do you mean? Say that to me. You can talk to me like that. I'll talk to you whatever way I want. See, these are fighting words now. Where's the boundary in all this? But if somebody's freaking out or they're having a day or whatever it is, like I said before, it's like on the phone. This is how they used to do it on the phone. You kind of do this now, but most of the time it's like this because you got it on speaker. There's just something about being like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I feel kind of bad that you feel the need to chew me out right now. But I'm not up for that. So call me when you can talk to me more decent. Click. Well, beep. Got to get the sound effects right. Click was way back in the day. Beep is right here, So, any case, that's having a boundary for you. I'm drawing a boundary for myself. And I don't have to talk trash and cuss and do everything else to draw a boundary for myself. The most powerful ones are like, you know what, that's not working for me. I've shared this story before of my little niece when she was little, and some doctors will do this, some won't. But she had some really good boundaries about her body. And the doctor said, well, she's going to have to get undressed so we can do the exam. And she looked at the doctor. She goes, that's not working for me. And so he looked at the mom like, well, we got to, if this is a physical, we need to do blah, blah, blah. And she's like, that's not working for me. I don't know, she was 5, 6 years old. And so mom backed her up and said, she's uncomfortable doing that. That's not going to work for her. So you better figure out a different way. A good boundary. So she was able to do that. But she didn't say, no. She just said, that's not working out for me. Another one that's real simple is like, oh, I'm sorry, that I don't roll like that. You figure out a way to say it that's in a way where it's like, I'm not picking a fight with you. For me, though, I'm not doing it. You can do it, but for me, I'm not. See, that's not, I don't feel that's going to be healthy for me long term. That's not going to turn out best for me. Isn't that being selfish? Well, right here is your boundary area. If you don't draw a boundary, no one else is going to draw one for you. If you don't know how to draw a boundary when it comes to yourself, you're going to be a very angry person because you'll be that person that walks away. I can't believe they pushed me around. They said this. Next time if they say it, though. Next time. I know they think I'm going to come, but you lay in bed thinking, if they say that again, I'm going to say that. It never happens. You make all these big plans about how you're going to confront. It never happens the same way. And you feel violated and you feel betrayed and run over. There's like that goes on in your system because of it. But when you talk about yourself, for me, this is what I've decided is going to be best for my life. So what's your plans? It can be that simple. Well, I want you to, I know you want me to, and I'm, I'd like to be in it with you, but no, for me, I can't do that. Ask them another question and get them thinking about themselves. So they start to see, as we train people how to treat us, actually, we kind of, with me and Jesus, I'm in charge of my area. You don't get to take charge of my area. But with me and the devil, it's like you come in this area, and I will wreck you. And I can come out of this area anytime I want and get in your area. Tell me what to do. See, that's rebellion. So there's just something about, here's my circle, my safe place. And I've established it. And there's peace here. So you bring something that's opposite of peace into my zone, and you're in my peace zone, I'm going to have a boundary for myself. Might mean to disengage from you. Might mean me calling the police. And I can call the police all riled up. Maybe the police need to be called, but you can call them all riled up. Yeah, you got to get here now because you're ready to draw this big boundary on the person. Or you can be at peace and be like, yeah, there's a person having a problem here. See, it's not about me. They're having an issue. I don't need to get riled up. See, that's how you know when boundaries come natural to you. It's just part of a training. I've had people, because I've had to call the police because they're high or whatever, and I know they're not really there. I don't personalize when they're cussing at me or threatening me, making up stuff. I'm going to take you to court. I'm sorry you feel that way. But I do care about you, so just so you know, I'll call you. I'll come visit you at jail. I mean, I'm telling them what I genuinely care about. I don't want to see you there. 3 days into it, they get a little text, and it's like, can you come see me? Because they've come down, and it's like, there you are, Peter. There you are. Your real self shows up. And I'm aware of that. But the boundary for me at that moment is I need to keep everyone safe. And my zone has to stay safe. And I want to keep you safe too. Because sometimes you're not safe enough for yourself. So someone else has to make you safe. See, that's called love. Calling the police would be called love. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why a lot of the laws change right now are stupid. Just talking to the camera. They're stupid because it's not keeping everyone safe. I'm not upset with officers. There's laws that have gotten jacked because they've removed our ability to either have a boundary or to have a boundary to keep that other person safe from themselves. And people are dying because of it. People are getting hurt because of it. So good boundaries come out of that. So here we are, anger resolution. What needs to be resolved? What needs to be resolved are these glitches. So we'll talk a little bit about the glitch. The glitch might look like a memory if you zoomed in like you do on your phone to some picture. Here's the little glitch, but we zoom in. It's an area that's been jailed. It's called arrested in development. The thought that was supposed to move on and grow and have permission to change and feel safe enough to change and have new information to change, that area, the brain said, that's way too much information, especially if you're under the age of 13. Because under the age of 13, you're in the age of directives. And we do things under the age of 13 because we were told to. Clean your room. Okay, I guess I'm supposed to go clean my room. After 13, there's a chemical that kicks in your brain that you actually didn't have before that helps you to reason whether or not you feel like cleaning your room. You already know you should, but I don't know if I don't. My mom tell me what to do or whatever. I mean, you start to try to rule that thing because you now have a new chemical in your brain that says you've just entered the next stage headed toward maturity, toward adulthood. And adulthood is between 26 and 30 years old. Your brain doesn't have its main foundational pathways until you're between 26 and 30 years old. So there's some people in here who are not yet adults. Yet you drive a car? You're really close to what we say an adult is, 18. Maybe some people feel 21. But it's 26 to 30 years old. This is why Jesus didn't go into the ministry until he was 30 years old. Even the Jewish culture knows that's when you're an adult. But 13, they also knew they had the bar mitzvah and the bar mitzvah. And you'd have this big celebration when you turn 13, right? Kind of like a quinceañera or whatever they call that for the Mexican or Spanish people. Quinceañera, is that how you say it? Anyways, they'll do that big celebration because now they've moved into this stage of like we're moving toward adulthood and everyone needs to recognize it. Some change has taken place. So if you've been really hurt under the age of directives, it's a little bit harder to deal with those memories because those memories told you what you're going to do. And it was at an age where you felt like, I just got to do what everyone tells me to do. Teacher tells me to sit down, I sit down. You're in the age of directives. Age 13 and up, you're deciding based on the information you have whether or not you should sit down. Sometimes we make a good choice, sometimes not so much. But that's where we're at. So if you're going to try to get something healed that's in back here, and that's where someone told you we're stupid, it is a settled fact that you are stupid. That's how your brain recorded it. That was the command. There it is. Where it's in question a little bit more up in here because that's when your reasoning kicked in a different level. And when you're trying to deal with memories there, you're asking yourself, well, I don't know. That's where we bounce back and forth. Well, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Where little kids are like, they said I was stupid. And it's just settled. You're stupid from there on out. right? So just know that if you're digging into memories or memories come forward and they surface, if you do EMDR or something like that, and all of a sudden your clusters are starting to break up and you have memories from way back in here, these are command memories. So if sexual abuse happened back in here, it was received as a command, like you don't have a way out of it. This person gets to do this to you, and that's the end of that. So it's a different kind of settling back in there. So just take note of that. So here we are. The memory that took place. That was me back in the day. No, and so, so anyways, the memory took place. Probably wasn't smiling as much as that. That's that thing that says, hey, this happened to me when I was 4, and I didn't have the information to move on, nor did I have the safety to move on, nor did I have the permission to move on. Remember, we established you have to have those 3 things. If you don't have permission, safety, or information, you don't get to pass go. You don't get to come out of that emotional thing, right? And so what happens is you're caught in stasis. So let's say that this is you at 4 years old. This is a big hurt, and it was abandonment that took place at 4 years old. You were the little kid standing on the porch and going, don't go, don't go. And Dad never returned. Okay? And it left such a feeling of like everyone always leaves me. That's too much for a 4-year-old. I don't care if they're playing on the playground and they look like they're all resilient and they're wonderful. They're carrying something with them that's more information than what they have to be able to process it. They don't have the foundation to process that. It's hard for adults to process that, isn't it? So it's too much. So the brain does a safety thing. It's a God built-in thing that the subconscious goes, okay, that we better save the situation. If we let this stay in play and we're trying to build on this is going to jack us up. So what it'll do is it'll shut down your growth. And this happened at 4 years old. You'll grow 18 to 24 months past the date of the trauma. 18 to 24 months. So emotionally, if I say something to you now and it triggers your 4-year-old self that's caught in this jail, you might be 6 years old at best. So you're not going to have an adult response. You're going to have a response that a 6-year-old would give, 4 to 6 years old. Have you ever had a 4 to 6-year-old response in your adult body? Don't touch me. You know, 4 to 6 years old. And you don't even know why you're acting. You wouldn't do that in front of your boss. But when you're with the people that you're the safest with, those are the people you're the meanest to. Those are the people that we'll show our arrestments to. This is called Arrested in Development. It's a real thing. They used to have a sitcom on, and I watched it one time, and I didn't think it was very funny because I couldn't get past the fact that this is a real deal. This is what sin does. It causes us to stay immature. This is why the Bible says, imitate the Lord. And it also says, be ye mature as my Father in heaven is mature. Be ye perfect. The word perfect there in the Greek means mature. And the word be is not him bossing you around. It's him calling you to that. Like when he said, light be, he's calling something to come to pass. So be mature. He calls that over us. And we're all like, he's calling us to a place of maturity. But here we are. We're caught in this prison, 18 to 24 months past the date that this baby went down. And if we can avoid this, we won't act like a 6-year-old at best. So we set up little systems of how, don't trigger me with this. Don't want that. Can't go to that party. Can't go over grandma's because that's going to trigger me. And I'm going to show up at 2. I might be 16 at the most. There's going to be some things go down where I'm like, I am now embarrassed because I did that thing again where I chewed out grandma or I threw a fit or I did something and I don't even normally act like this. It's because the pain of it got triggered and the jail cell got rattled and the 4 to 6-year-old child that's in there began to speak. Hey, I'm in here. Open this door. Threw a big old fit. That's why sometimes you'll hear people say, man, that guy was mad. Well, that could be accurate if he got mad slammed the door, kicked the dog, got in his truck, and drove 100 miles an hour down a windy road. Could have killed himself or others, but that's just an adult being angry. Is it? That's not an adult behavior. What age group would do something like that? If they had the power to do it. Yeah. Yep, they'll do that. Or even like a little kid, maybe they're not driving an actual car, but they'll just do something crazy. They'll be like, fine, and they just take off and do something wild, and you're like, what are you're not even thinking about yourself or others? What are you doing? But when we're tuning an adult, we'll be like, well, you did make your father mad. So it's okay for him to kick the dog and slam the door and drive down the road because we made him angry. No, you can be angry, the Bible says, but don't sin in your anger. Part of the sin of it is now you're acting like a 3-year-old. That's immature. And we're supposed to imitate God, who is absolute maturity, who is absolute love. So we're completely opposite of love in that moment. Don't have boundaries for ourselves. So sometimes you'll see it where people will get some strong thing that they're arrested between 14 and 17 years old, somewhere in there. And when you're trying to resolve something with them, they get sassy like a teenager. Like a junior higher. What? Why? You're always asking me about finances. Huh? Suddenly this mature person who knows how to go to work and does all this kind of stuff is like, what? What do you mean, what, Bill? Why did you just reduce down to 13 years old? I don't know. Well, there's something in the program that's way younger than your age group. This year I had the privilege of turning 58. And I've been heat-seeking arrestments for years already because I've known this for a long time. And just when you think, I got them all, you really don't get them all because all of a sudden a little kid will show up inside of you and you're like, what? Why do I feel like crying right now and kicking something? Or being destructive behavior. Have you ever noticed destructive behavior? 2, 3, 4 years old, they have no sense of like, if I break that actually costs money. Right? If I break that, that's someone else's belongings. In the moment, they're just angry and they don't have the maturity to be able to, like, let me put this all together. They're just like, kick the toy, throw it, hit it. I don't like it. Just contort their body and do all this at the same time. Well, take that and put that in my 58-year-old self. That'd be pretty intense, wouldn't it? I deal with people all the time that will be 6 years old and go back to their junior high way of talking or handling things. We all do it in whatever degree. And sometimes we feel it, but we don't act it out. Do you ever have that? Your adult self is like, why are you contemplating that right now? You probably shouldn't do that, you know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's enough of your adult self that's looking at the little kid and being like, you be quiet. Because if you speak right now, you're going to make me look bad. So shut your pie hole, you know. And then you have to go way later and figure out why you felt so immature in that moment. Paul Hegstrom, who is one of the guys who actually discovered how the brain works with this, we had the privilege of being in a 60-hour abuse recovery course and being trained as facilitators under him. So we got to pick his brain, and it was a beautiful thing. He's since gone on to be with the Lord. But he talked about being in business meetings where he would go in briefcase, you know, dressed to the nines, and you sit down at that big shiny table that's all long and everybody's decked out or whatever, does his adult self stuff, right? And everyone's like, he's incredible. The guy's a brain. Walks into another room and throws up and sits there and just shakes. And he couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And then he'd go home and beat up his wife. When you think about that, those aren't even junior high behaviors. That's younger than that. Well, he was molested when he was 9 years old. So when he gets in a group of men sitting around the table, he was molested by a man. He's an adult now, right? You should be able to separate that out. But it triggered that feeling of like, there's more of them than there are me. I'm in this room. I'm in charge. How can I be in charge? Something bad's going to happen. And it get him so wound up that he literally would throw up. But he couldn't peg it till he threw his wife down the stairs one night while they were fighting, which would be like 8, 9 years old. Think about raising kids. I mean, you can do it as a toddler. It's a different kind of thing. You know, you just pull them apart and they kind of hang there like cats. You know, you know, and they don't even know what they're doing. But an 8, 9-year-old, you're getting pretty like, I will control you. If you're going to fight on the playground, you think you're fighting for real anyway, to the degree of your 8, 9-year-old self. And so he throws her down, which is what a lot of older brothers do to their little sisters or whatever, just to prove their dominance. And so he did that, and he really hurt her. So he ended up going to prison. And while he was in prison, they showed a video of him, reenactment of him just hitting the prison floor, which is cement, and his knuckles getting all bloody, just saying, God, if you just show me what's wrong with me. What is wrong with me? And God laid it out for him, and he began to research, because you got time. When you're in prison, you get a lot of education. In fact, that would be my 5-year plan. If I had to go to prison for some reason, I'd be like, what school could I tap into? I could be a doctor when I get out of here. I mean, I would not. I'd take advantage of that right now. But anyway, so he became, a psychiatrist and the whole thing, coming out of everything that he did, and then had to win his wife back and walk through the process of her arrestments and his arrestments. Oh, the story was just really intense. But in that, he could sense that there's something with the 9-year-old self, right? So he would have been 11 years old, 18, 24 months at best after that molestation. It was so horrific for him, his brain shut down, and that's where he stopped. Where you have enough information to be dangerous, but you don't even have that chemical of 13 and older. Not quite there. You're in the age of directives where people told you what to do, and now this sentences you to who you are. And so he's sitting there in front of all these men thinking, this is who I am. They're going to find out who I am. Intense. But he wasn't putting it together in his brain until God brought him through a series of healing. And when he did that, he realized, oh, my Lord, it goes back to that arrestment. And when he dealt with that, everything changed. Everything changed. The fear being in front of these people, all of that, everything. And he went on to, have a ministry that has gone all over the world called Life Skills. And that's where I've learned some of this stuff from. So pretty cool. Bonnie was in on some of the classes too years ago. So there is this thought that, like, sometimes we'll be like, I'm crazy. This is what's wrong with me. My mom always said, you're just like your dad. That must be the issue. Or you're just like your mother. It's none of that. What it comes down to, you are the information that was given to you or the lack thereof. Now I have to give a little disclosure, a little tiny fine print at the bottom of the page that I should have gave you before, but it's best to give you at the end of the class because now it's too late. I just talk to your subconscious by showing you all of this. And so for some of you especially, you're going to go, oh, I did not know that. Then you will leave, and a couple of days from now, you might fall apart. You might find yourself getting angry. Because what I just did is I gave your brain permission and a reality check that you're not stupid, you're not dumb, you're not weird, you're not a freak, you haven't been born flawed or defective. We've all had junk happen to us. And I give you permission right now to grow. You can deal with these things. You can always get new information. You can always go through the glitch and work it through. You have permission to do that. And if you feel safe enough here especially, it gives you more permission to keep continuing to deal. Which then you go, no, I'm fine. I'm not really working on anything. And all of a sudden you might have a boop come up and you're like, whoa, I feel like I'm 4. What in the world? Why is that showing up today? I'll tell you what, Thanksgiving and Christmas fights are most of the time not about what's happening presently. It's about everything that always did happen. And if you show up and you're 7, and your brother shows up and he's 10, but you're trying to have an adult family get together, It's like, we're going to be adults now this year. It's going to be different. And all of a sudden people start drinking because they can't communicate and they got to have alcohol in their system to even look at the other person. And if we're going to have fun here, I might as well do this. There's stuff that happens, fights break down. And then we'll say, I'm never going to their house again. The root of those things is here. It's not even in the now. Because you can name the thing that's bad right now, but if you were your adult self, you would handle that thing that's bad right now totally different. We're all arrested in development. So that does make it harder for a police officer who doesn't know he's arrested at 6 years old to come up on a scene that maybe he's never seen before, and it hits his arrestment, and now he's supposed to produce an adult thing when he's conversation with somebody. On a good day, he might, but on a bad day, he's going to act out because he's a human. Right? The fireman, the same thing. A nurse, a doctor, your garbage man. We had a garbage man in Colorado that definitely was about 5 years old one day. Now, granted, we did daycare and we probably had 100 diapers go out, once a week for sure, in the nice hot Colorado sun in our garbage cans. But all you have to do is rotate them over and the truck picks it up or whatever. But the swearing and the stuff that was going on was not an adult behavior. Sometimes our fears are built in these negative things. We'll get a sensation of something that feels like it felt when we were 5 years old, because here's how it works. The way you record it is the way you'll recall it until you reframe it. The way you record it is the way you'll recall it until you reframe it. That's the picture I saw. Well, might want to take that picture down and reframe something. Hang that one up instead, right? And until you get it reframed, it's going to be a problem. So here we are. You recall something triggers in you that feels like abandonment, and you were that 4-year-old. Now you're between 4 and 6 years old. You are recalling it like you recorded it. You're not recalling it like an adult. That memory base, that thing will open up, and you will feel what you felt when you were between 4 and 6 years old. Your view of it would be like between 4 and 6 years old. The smell of it. There's people who have been abused that literally their scent, their smell becomes really like, I could smell this when I had that memory, because it was tied to the abuse, tied to what the house smelled like, tied to whatever. Or they went to someone else's house and that same smell was there, and it triggered them, and they felt like they were back in that time of abuse. Because we record through our 5 senses. We record through that. So when you record, then it's put in there, and if it's too much information, it's locked up. And now, if somebody touches that file, it opens up, and you hear from the child within, because that's how it was recorded and never got permission to move beyond that. So you're going to recall it just like it happened. And how scary is that, to be an adult feeling like you're 6 years old? That's panic attack at its finest. You're like, I am not my adult self right now. And you can feel it. Your whole body is like, we're all going to die. So, because you're recalling it and like a child. And so what you're looking for at that moment is somebody to reset you, to ground you, to pat you on the back, to reground your heart, to hey, it's okay. Shh, you're going to be all right. But most of the time, a 58-year-old doesn't always have somebody there. You don't have all these people prepared to give you that hug and surround you. That's why you got to find some peeps who are close to you that'll give you that hug whenever you can get it. But then we mature, and we're in that age group where we're able to give it a reality check. I give anything that's left inside of me that's immature, I now have more rulership in my soul. My adult self recognizes I'm taking care of some kids. Got a big family. I got a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 4-year-old. Hey, I wasn't born yet because I lose all ability for speech if that gets triggered. Do you ever have that where you're like, got nothing to say because there's no speech there? Because it happened in the time before speech. So here we are, and we're going to try to process this. How do you not feel weird and flawed and defective if you don't understand what's going on? But if you understand what's going on, you go, that's just an harassment. Yeah, I'm babysitting that kid. He's going to grow up. He's going to graduate here pretty soon. That's what's cool about when the Bible says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And the word liberty means emancipation from bondage. So if you're bound, this gets open, this door gets open, the key, and you get to come out and mature. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's emancipation from bondage. So really your adult self is like, hey, taking you to church, all your little arrestments. You're going to church with me. I don't want to, right? I don't want to get in the car. I just want a few more minutes sleep. Church is stupid. That's about 13. It's so dumb and it's so boring. Is that an adult way of handling it? No. So I got to take my adult self whenever it does that, and I might get in the car. And we're putting you in the car seat because you are all over the place. You buckle up because we're going, right? And you'll have that. A lot of times people's arrestments will show up on the way to church. You shut up. Stop touching me. I don't. But it's in an adult form where we're yelling at each other, and then we get in and we're trying to worship. Hi, Pastor. No, I'm feeling great. Because there's like you didn't want to see just what happened in that case. Shut up and don't tell them what just happened in the car. All the way to church, and then suddenly our adult self shows up. Praise God. It happens with us all in some manner or another. That's why you can be like, you shut up, and I don't, blah, 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 blah. And you get out to work, and your boss greets you at the door, and hello, sir. And you go in, and you're like, what happened to that other guy? Well, I caged him. Put him back in the cage, right? Shut up. Because I'm at work right now, but I will let you out when we get home because you can go ahead and wreak havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Just do it like your 2-year-old self does. And then we feel embarrassed. You ever have those kind of arguments where the next day you get up and you're like, hi, making coffee or whatever. So where are you going today? Oh, I got to go to work. Nobody's being real. We're not finishing what happened the night before. We're like, I got to go to work. And you leave because you're waiting for the embarrassment of that child that showed up to leave. Or the 13-year-old that was sassy. Or the 18-year-old who's like, this is my money, my house. By golly, I'm an adult now, right? And you're 45 years old and you have to make these big announcements. What? That's what we do. And when you make a big announcement like that, the other person either has to cower and go, yes, my lord. Or the other, if it's the other person running you. And they're not going to do that. So they're like, you know what? You can take this job and shove it. I ain't working here no more. Right? So then it causes the split right away. Arrestments do that. Where there is strife, there dwelleth every evil and wicked thing. Who knows how to fight the best? Under 13 years old, for sure. That's mine. That's my checkbook. Mom, he took my checkbook. Except we don't say it like that. Right? It's not something that we don't talk like that. We'll use our man voice or our woman voice. And we get all authoritative. And women like to use their finger. Tell you a thing or two, It's like there's power in this. Like it's a lightsaber. But there's something to it. We couldn't just sit and say, hey, look, we got to work out the finances. Well, no, that's too easy. Right? Because his arrestment called my arrestment. You're picking on my little kid. So I'm going to unleash my older little kid right there. You're going to take out your little kid. And that's what's really fighting, not your most adult self. Because if you videotaped your fights, your arguments, they don't sound adult. like? Fine then. Well, fine. Well, fine. Woo, intelligent conversation we're having, right? And then slamming doors and throwing dishes and just doing stuff. And then you're like, I don't want to talk about it. Right? It's about 14, 15. I don't want to talk about it. Well, we're going to have to talk about it. Don't tell me what to do. What age group does that? It's not adult. You can say, I'm not really ready to talk about that right now. I'm trying to get my kid under control, and I can't get him back in where he needs to be and settle down, right? He keeps interrupting me wanting to have an adult conversation, and now kid in me keeps butting in. Ever have that where little kids are like, Mom, 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 and you're having a conversation with somebody, and then you have to stop the conversation and say, shh, she's not done talking yet. And they're like, it's so hard for them. They're like, they feel like it's the end of the world because I got to get this out right now. Well, that's many times how we handle the other person, because we're on the like, I just have to have the last word. I just got to get this out right now. When did you have to have the last word in your life? What age group? It can be various different ones, but if you were going to have the last word with your parents, what age group did you do it at? 12? 13? Your face would be on the floor, and they kind of put it back on later. You're like, thank you for giving me a reality check. But at the same time, I had a couple little people that I've taken care of over the years, doing foster care and different things like that. And had one in my family who did this, and I had a little niece who did this. No, you're going to go to bed right now, right? You didn't listen to what Mommy was saying, and this is what we're doing. No, we're going to brush your teeth and blah, blah, blah. Okay, kid gets in bed. And I love you, but you need to stop this behavior. And that door goes to go, shut up. Did you just say something to me? No. They go to close the door. You shut up. The emotion that comes up is like, people die for this. No, but kids will do that. And that's called really, they might not even know the connotation of shut up or really what they're saying to you, but it's like, I had the last say. You can spank me right now, but as you're leaving, shut up. Under their breath. There, I still won. And if you take that mentality into a relationship, then we're never solving a problem, we're winning. Thinking about that, that's arrested in development. Police will show up to an altercation or something. They should be looking for to see if this is really wanting to solve and we just can't get the communication right, or someone's trying to win. Because many times they'll take the person who's trying to win, give me this, you go sit over here, let me just talk to you for a little bit. Because they're trying to redirect like you would a toddler. No, let's go over here and look at the puppy, instead of choking your sister, and then you get over here and you talk to the person and, so what's going on? Well, she, blah, blah, blah. Or the woman does the same thing, right? They separate it enough because of that action, because you got to get at the brain. Otherwise it's stuck. The cingulate in the brain is stuck on the more immature self. And it's about winning. No, I'm going to beat you in this. I'm going to have the last say. I'm going to be the best. Ever in a relationship where someone's got to be the best? Are you that person that has to be the best? Because if you have to be the best, what it says is, in the end, I feel that insecure. To the level of your insecurity is the level you'll need to take control. So a person who always has to be the best is actually the most insecure. They can look like a real intense person, but that's the person I'm always like, oh man, I wonder why they feel so insecure. But you would never know it by their action. Their body action, they're going to take control. They're up in your grill and everything. You're like, wow, you are really insecure because you are like throwing yourself out there. No need for that. No need for that. Let's just talk. That's hard. That's hard. Accusations. The child within you likes to accuse. I never pushed him, but he pushed me first. And then I said, and she said, and I never said. And there's just all this stuff. And I've been mad about 2 weeks ago and yesterday. And you're building a case, so you're a lawyer on top of it. We'll be talking about this in the weeks to come. You're going to build the case because you're going to win. You are going to win. And if you're having a conversation trying to solve something and someone goes into Lawyerville, they will remember. Women are really good at this, especially. They'll be like, no, don't say that to me. Because I remember that Tuesday you said that, and you had that red sweatshirt on. And you were remember when you were standing? No, remember? You were standing over there, and that's when Sarah came in. And you said something to her that really crushed me. And the guy's like, I don't even remember what you're talking about. Because they never logged it. They weren't doing anything. There wasn't anything they were really engaged in. But in the hurt of the arrestment, by golly, you're going to win. And if he says, I don't remember, you don't remember? This is what I've been talking about. You don't even care. You don't care. That's how it can go awry. So fast. So we have to, in the week to come here, now next week I have it on the calendar as we're supposed to be having something here because we just switched secretaries. And now there's nothing next week because that's the week of Thanksgiving. Then we come back and we do the following week. Okay? So nobody's going to show up here next week on Wednesday? Back away from Wednesday. Okay. And then we hit it again. But this is the thing that's grace to you in that is you got a little bit more time to think about where am I arrested in development? Because I found even teaching the class when you come at it, this might sound like a simple concept, but you walk out of here, that little disclosure will kick in and you'll be like, I had to go do this. I felt like crying. I didn't even know why. And then I got really angry over here. There's all of this stuff. Well, you'll start to recognize I got some stuff. There's some kids and some teenagers caught up inside of me. And my adult self is actually getting really tired of having to take care of them. And you will resent the child within you. You'll resent the teenager, like, I'm sick of me. That's what I told my husband when we first got married, and he asked me where to go on vacation, and I said, anywhere away from me. Because I had like 20 kids I was taking care of. And can we just leave them at home with a babysitter? Because then we could get out of here and have a lot of fun, and there wouldn't be any arguments or anything because I got all these people to take care of inside of me. But as different ones started graduating out, that's what ends up happening. Emancipated from bondage. And some of them just soared. It only took like 6 months, and they graduated from 6 years old to 20. Boom. It was crazy. It was so supernatural. It was so information. Because the brain collects information this whole time. All it needs then is permission. And you let that child out with the right information, the right safety, soar and you'll mature. Now, the last thing I want to say before we end here is let's acknowledge that this is how it rolls. But let's sprinkle some drugs up in this house. Let's give some drugs to our kid who's 12 years old or 13 and getting real sassy. And get them all hyped up on meth. Or let's try to shut all this down by alcohol and pot and other things. Let's just quiet, shh. Kid keeps crying. Shut your pie hole. You know? I just did. There. Gave him some pot. That'll shut him up for a while. The problem is, like for instance, pot and alcohol, your brain is trying to solve this, so it's going too fast already. Nobody gets out of that. There's some type of anxiety that's going on. You give it a downer, it'll actually come down a little bit more to a normal pattern. And you're like, so weird, right? But then you're not smoking pot 24 hours a day. So as soon as you go off of it, this meter goes faster than it did before because now it's looking, where is it? Right? And you'll just start shaking and people are like, it's just pot. I just had a beer. Well, every time you do that and drug the child within you that's in pain, you stop him from emotionally or her from emotionally growing. With any drug, it's like, you're like, shut your pie hole. Don't get information. Don't ask about anything. Just leave me alone. That's the goal. Get your kid, leave you alone. And so you're not maturing in that area. So then we get rid of all the drugs, and this child, all these different children or teens or whatever that's caught inside of us, then feel everything they couldn't feel before. And if you used for 10 years, now they're going to feel 10 years worth of stuff. And people look at the drug and go, it's just so highly addictive. No, the brain is like, hello, I got tons of files we never went through. You ignored me all these years. I am going to cry out from this jail cell like you've never heard before, because now I know somebody opened a window and maybe someone's going to hear me. And you start screaming. They're screaming like, help, help, help. Right? That's what happens. And we go, snap, I cannot take care of these 20 kids. They're just screaming in my head. I better go smoke pot. See it? How it has to do with addiction? I better go have another beer. And then we're adding insult to injury. Makes sense? So, doesn't mean you're evil. It's just sometimes 20 kids is a lot of kids to take care of. Takes up a lot of space, time, and energy in your brain, and you're just trying to be that person who's moved on. By golly, I'm 58 years old. I should be able to enjoy life without having to take care of 20 kids in my head. But I'm still parenting. It's exhausting. So much easier to just have a couple martinis and shut up. You've been here long, and I'm done taking care of you. Change your own diaper. That's really what it is. I don't have to deal with you. So we go into denial, and we actually disassociate that there's parts of us that haven't grown. I don't think about you. Do you hear something? It's kind of, I felt like I heard a kid crying or something. Nope, not here. No, I'm fine. No, there's no 20 children hidden in the basement of my thinking. Nope, I'm very mature. I'm fine. Fine, really. Right? And every once in a while, something gets triggered. Escape. And you're like, somebody unleashed a kraken, and I can't control myself. They got the keys and opened up for all the other ones. And now I'm having a nervous breakdown. I can't seem to grab them all. They're running every different direction. That's how our brain works. It'll just start doing this. It's like you walk into a preschool world and it's just a room, and it's just absolute chaos. That's how it feels when you try to go to bed at night and you're laying there and you can see the lights flickering in your eyes. Remember how I talked about that? If your brain's on overload because it's trying to babysit, and it just needs, how do I graduate this kid? He's driving me crazy. And you go to bed at night, and it's pitch dark in your room, and you close your eyes, and you still see a flickering. You've either had too many monster drinks, which that would be one, because it lights up your system that hard, or your brain is on overload, because you will see lights flickering when there shouldn't be any. That's a good sign that your brain's saying, help me. Yeah? So a lot of people will get up. If it's not alcohol, will go eat sugar, right? Because sugar turns into alcohol in your intestines. A lot of people don't know that. So be like, I can't sleep unless I eat a huge bowl of pasta before I go to bed and 2 candy bars. I'm good now. Because it turns into a certain aspect of alcohol, and it'll... So, I want you to think about, until we get back together again, not next week, Wednesday, but the week following, I want you to think about when your little guy or little gal has showed up in your head, when you've acted out, when you've thrown a fit, when your 3-year-old can get you to cuss. That's not an adult behavior. Yeah, but she's a little punk. And I'm talking about your actual kid. They're 3. So she's laying on the floor having a fit. It's not the end of the world. She'll live, and so will you. There's some ways to solve that. But we got to rein it in But if your kid goes at her being a kid, now we're in trouble. Now we're in trouble. I've seen it where parents, the kid will slap them in the face and they just slap them back and they have this slapping match. And you're like, I lost sight of who the adult is here. Sorry, I can't see which one is it. This one's got a bigger body. So we got to find that out. And then if you identify, because we're going to share next time, if you identify that, you know what, I really realized I didn't get the memo on something. It could be that you didn't get the memo on how to handle finances. And now, if anything remotely comes your way regarding money, a bill crosses your desk, it's instant anger. Because you feel uneducated, because your brain's going, I don't know, what do I do with this? You could pay the bill, but you don't feel solid on it. There's not an adult feeling that says, I'm going to rule this bill. We're going to get this paid off. It's more like, there it is. Cole sent me a bill. Right? That would be junior high. So when you're thinking about where you're at, try to look at kids and be like, that's that age group that does that. I remember feeling that in 7th grade. I remember being like that my freshman year or whatever. And give yourself, and I give you permission for change. And I pray that it's safe enough here that you can tap into Hope Dealers and leave here and just go, yeah, I have permission and safety and some new information. Because once you know, you can't not know this. So it's too late. I just downloaded it. I pressed the button when you weren't looking. I'm like, download. There we go. La, la, la. And it's in there, right? So it's going to work on those areas where you never had information. So that means it'll bring the files forward and say, you want to unpack this now? Should we unpack this? Because this needs to be recalled, reframed, unpacked, and put away. Let's stand. Hallelujah. I just talked to a young lady a couple hours before service. Opioids is the problem. And she's got a window of sobriety that's like, I have to hurry before this thing grabs me again. I have to hurry to get a Rule 25, a hurry to do these different things. And I just pray for her right now in the name of Jesus. Lord God, we thank you for the people that are in the trenches and they're trying to learn how to love themselves. And their children inside of them have been drugged, and there's just a lot going on, and they're afraid to be without the drug because they'll get attacked by everything that they've not worked on. God, I just ask for your grace in that war. Your grace in the name of Jesus. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, that you're working on us all. And you said, be perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect, which means be mature. Come up out, you're saying. Come up out of the glitches. Come up out of the lies. Come up out in the name of Jesus. Amen. I also want you to challenge yourself to tell yourself something positive and see, don't wait long, see what comes up. You know what? I believe I'm going to get a good job. What? You? So dumb. I mean, it can happen that fast. This is why you make your plans and you write the vision. Right? This is where I'm going. I'm going to dress for where I'm going. Ooh, that irritates the brain. I'm going to talk for where I'm going. That irritates the brain. Because all the areas where it said you ain't going nowhere, you're stuck. You're the babysitter. You ain't going nowhere. You have no vision then to follow. Challenge it. Tell it something that's true, but not necessarily true right in this moment. That's where, over there, that's where I'm going. You ain't going nowhere. Oh, yeah? Well, this town ain't big enough for the two of us, right? You know, it's that kind of challenge, and you're like, no, it's not. So you're the synaptic nerve that needs to atrophy and die, okay? And then I'm moving on because I'm going over there. That's really what you're telling your brain, and it will. There's certain parts of the brain that'll atrophy, they'll die, be reabsorbed into the body, and you'll forget about that thought because it's not being lit up, and you will have the new thought doing the new thing down the road. Amen? You're blessed and highly favored of